Wearing clear clothes will lead to rebellion. Wearing Chongzhen is no exception. Fighting with local clan forces and civil service parties to make Daming great again. How difficult it is. Isn't there a dead land for rebels and pirates guarding the country's gates? Directly joining the ranks of Jiannu, simple and rough. First, set a small goal and be appointed as an official. Then, gather a few Cloud Cavalry captains to become the first Batulu of the Qing Dynasty. Add a 3-piece set for tampering. Of course. One cannot miss the dragon bed for overnight stays. Madam, you don't want Fulin to be killed tomorrow either. As for Daming. Very soon. A few years later, Daming stated that he would never surrender until the last drop of blood from the 8 banners of the Qing dynasty was drained. Keywords of the novel. Become the emperor of the Qing dynasty, Chongzhen. No pop-ups, become the emperor of the Qing dynasty, Chongzhen. Download the complete TXT collection and become the emperor of the Qing dynasty, Chongzhen. Latest chapter reading. Chapter 1. Response Manual. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 1 Response Manual 001. Why write this kind of strange article? Answer. Of course, in order to harvest rice, no, in order to make Qingfen and Mingfen abandon their prejudices, unite against each other, and be close as one family. 002. Can one be an emperor of the Qing dynasty without braids? Answer. Viking braids are also braids. 003. What exactly is a golden finger? Answer. Simply put, due to unknown reasons, the two modern people, one literary and one martial, were absorbed by Chongzhen. One could fight while the other had goods in his head, so Chongzhen became able to fight and have goods. That's all. Is the original text of this book really difficult to understand? 004. All right. Reverse entry. Answer. I, Zhu Yujian, the first Batulu and regent of the Qing dynasty, am loyal to the Qing dynasty and can be seen from heaven and earth. The day is clear, so what level should I enter? 005. Zhu Yu is diligent, frugal, and frugal, how could he possibly gain weight? Little Heisey, right. Answer. I really didn't expect that the most talked about subject matter would be whether Zhu Yujian has gained weight or not. Not to mention whether this point is important in this article, but my initial wording was indeed problematic because my intention was to write about the slightly plump physique of Emperor Xizong, and the word somewhat bloated was inappropriate and has been revised. Considering the content of this article, it's okay to go to Ming Xiling and apologize to Emperor Xizong for these 2 words. After all, the whole book may offend Emperor Xizong the least with these 2 words. But let's just focus on gaining weight. Firstly, Emperor Xizong did not leave a reliable portrait, and secondly, his frugality does not mean that he, the emperor, will go hungry. It is inevitable for a 33-year-old middle-aged person who doesn't exercise much on weekdays and sits up late all day to lose weight and shape. 006. The book title is too outrageous and discouraging. Answer. Is it really discouraging? But I think it's really enjoyable to be continued. End of this chapter. Chapter 2. Kill Shengjing. Seize the bird's seat. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 2 Kill Shengjing. Seize the bird's seat. Sure, Wanshui Mountain is also beautiful with clear mountains and clear waters. The old crooked neck tree is in front of us, and the white silk is all hung up. You can enjoy the human fireworks in Beijing by hanging it up. The fire is really lively, and it's really impressive at the beginning. Hey! That eunuch. Wang Qingyan, right. You actually hung up your silk. Are you serious about your backward movement? You're not even afraid of death. What are you afraid of? At this moment, Wang Qingyan had a ghostly expression on his face, holding his white silk at a loss. Didn't you see a ghost? Originally, your majesty was going to hang himself on the silk, but suddenly a strong wind arose and a dry thunder exploded. Your majesty's slightly overweight and deformed body began to soar upwards in a dry land-like manner. In just a moment, he transformed from a middle-aged passerby with a neither tall nor short stature to a burly man who was 1.9 meters tall and had a well-proportioned physique. A dragon robe instantly stretched into a beggar's outfit. Mutated. On the surface, it twisted with the mutation, sometimes crying and sometimes laughing. In the blink of an eye, if it weren't for Wang Chengyan being also an old minister of Chongzhen during the reign of King Xian. Otherwise, this extremely disciplined young man named Zhu Yujian, who doesn't touch any oil, has 0 sugar or calories, and his beard and hair are also vigorous. His eyebrows and eyes are full of determination, and he cannot recognize him no matter what. I recognized it, but it doesn't mean this change. His posture is reasonable. But since His Majesty said it, Wang Chengyan still gritted his teeth and threw the white silk onto the tree. Anyway, no matter which way the demons and monsters got on your majesty's body, the city of Beijing has already been destroyed. He watched with his own eyes as the thieves went crazy climbing towards the city wall. Blood was almost drained one by one, and the fried child's face was pounded and he fought fiercely without retreating. At that time, Wang Chengyan knew that Beijing could no longer be defended. Your Majesty, Your Majesty. Then I dare to take a step forward. I'm joking, don't hang up yet. Mutant Zhu Yujian's smile stiffened, and he waved his hand repeatedly to stop Wang Chengyan, then found a large stone to sit on. My mind is a bit confused now, there are too many thoughts inside, and my body is not easy to control. I haven't adapted well for a while. Please wait for me slowly. Here, as instructed. Wang Chengyan nodded. Your Majesty is what he says. Wait. Anyway, just a moment ago, the intruder seemed to have just stepped into the inner hall. The huge palace walls were in chaos, enough for them to rummage through them for a while. The fierce man Zhu Yujian nodded, then frowned and muttered something in his mouth. Wang Chengyan instinctively perked up his ears and only managed to catch a few names, such as Wu Sangui, Zhengjilong, and Li Dinghua. These are also some acquaintances. Just at this moment, it's understandable to mention Wu Sangui, the emergency use of Ping Shibua. Talking about a great pirate far away and a general in a rebel camp is difficult to understand. But whether to say or not at this moment, Wang Chengyan also regained his senses from despair and carefully scrutinized the fierce man Chongzhen, who was holding his head in the shape of a meditator. Suddenly it turned into this appearance, and he didn't immediately ask him to search for boys and girls to drink. Thinking of this, Wang Chengyan's stagnant gaze lit up. Hi. This one possessed by your majesty. You are such a fairy. Your majesty, are you saved? Is Daming saved? Like a sudden awakening, Wang Chengyan felt a glimmer of hope again and murmured to himself, awakening the contemplative Zhu Yujian. He sat upright and said seriously, there's help. We don't need to hang ourselves anymore. Ha! So, what will your majesty do next? Wang Chengyan was immediately ecstatic. Since there was a sudden mutation in his majesty's body, suspected to be possessed by a divine being, all he needed to do was to head south and regroup, so I have a heavy responsibility entrusted to me next. As he spoke, Zhu Yujian slapped Wang Chengyan on the shoulder to show his respect for him. As a result, he almost shattered his old bones, his face turned white, and he was about to faint. Ah, I'm sorry. The consciousness has barely adapted to the body, but the body hasn't adapted much yet. Don't die, Wang Dabin. Quickly go with the flow. I need you. The people need you. The Ming Dynasty needs you. People cannot pinch each other anymore. Zhu Yujian knew that in his current state, Wang Chengyan's precious front teeth could be pressed down with just one finger, so he could only give verbal encouragement. Fortunately, this encouragement was very useful. Wang Chengyan took a few breaths to resist. Just as he was about to speak back, Jiu swiftly lifted him onto his shoulder. It's good if you're not dead. You can rest for now and lead the way with ease. There are still royal families inside, we need to run away quickly, and we'll talk more about the rest later. Okay. Your Highness, I have already made arrangements. All you need is, the situation was urgent, and Wang Chengyan didn't hesitate to go beyond the limit. Upon learning that the mutated Chongzhen was about to run away, he quickly transformed into a portable shoulder map. After a moment, Zhu Yujian found a secret passage behind a dilapidated small temple covered in wild grass and moss in the mountains. A few hours later, in a small grotto on a barren mountain more than 10 miles east of Beijing, Zhu Yujian pushed aside the stone slab blocking the road. The stone slab fell to the ground and immediately alarmed the Jiannu Wei dressed in casual clothes who was waiting outside. Here we are. But your Majesty. It's Duke Wang. Everyone crowded over and saw Wang Chengyan peeking out from the secret passage deep in the cave. A few people hurriedly helped Wang Chengyan out, and naturally looked back with anticipation. Then, their hopeful gaze went from the initial overhead gaze, to the level gaze, and then to the upward gaze. Mutant Zhu Yujian struggled to crawl out of the secret passage. I'm not telling you, your secret passage is a bit too small. A group of genie guards looked at the burly man who had emerged from the secret passage. Looking at the secret passage that squeezed enough for 2 people to run parallel. Is it small? Wang Gonggang, who is this? Wang Chengyan was sitting on the small horse delivered by the royal guards, trying to catch his breath. Upon hearing this, he immediately slapped him and said, "This is your Majesty." What kind of thing? The beaten Jiannu Wei covered his head, glanced at the mutated Chongzhen, and then at the serious Wang Chengyan. Cold and heavy, a solid and heavy palm landed on his shoulder. Let me explain it a bit. The pinched royal guards rolled their eyes and nodded repeatedly. That's right, you are His Majesty the Emperor. While we are still feeling on our shoulders, please quickly raise your hand. After supporting the unstable Jiannu Wei, Zhu Yujian spoke up, I have become like this because 2 divine beings, one literary and one martial, sacrificed their lives to assist me. Their souls and bodies merged with me, and my body has become like this. Wang Chengyan, who got up and brought a small maza to Zhu Yujian, quickly proved, what we saw with our own eyes. A natural anomaly. Lightning and thunder, your Majesty will instantly return to life. I sent you to wait here because you have also seen your Majesty's true face before. Take a closer look. The royal guards quickly examined and indeed found that the mutated Zhu Yujian in front of them was somewhat similar to the previous Emperor Chongzhen. And he is also wearing a dragon robe with durability, 6 out of 10. But before they could think it over, Zhu Yujian waved his hand. Now the explanation has also been explained. Whether you believe it or not, please bring me a pen and paper as soon as possible. I want to draft an edict. Without waiting for the reaction of the royal guards, Wang Chengyan, who had calmed down, quickly found a pen and paper, and then drove them away from seeing the words written by Zhu Yujian. But when he casually glanced at him proficiently, he suddenly became foolish. Your Majesty. Don't ask, the first thing I ask you to do is to bring my will to the King of Tang, and then. Speaking, Zhu Yujian directly tore off the damaged dragon robe from his body. This is supporting evidence. What? I have already committed suicide and died for my country in Maishan, with no bones left. Before my death, I left this imperial edict to inherit the throne as evidence. Wang Chengyan's eyes almost widened upon hearing this. Don't you stand here properly? Tang Wang succeeded to the throne. What are you going to do? As if guessing what Wang Chengyan was thinking, mutated Zhu Yu tilted his mouth and smiled with an evil charm, revealing his healthy big white teeth. He leaned down in Wang Chengyan's ear and whispered, I want to kill Shengjing and seize the bird's seat. Welcome to comment. Applying for alignment will result in one seat in the response manual excluding those that the author cannot accept. End of this chapter. Chapter 3. Even more barbarians than barbarians. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 3. Even more barbarians than barbarians. April 1644. Due to the colder climate in northeast China during the Chongzhen period. So this is the season of melting snow. 6 men wearing rough and bulky fur, unkempt and evil-looking, are leading a donkey and 2 horses to trek through the thick snow. A few people were wriggling as a horse emerged from the forest ahead. Your Majesty. There are several dilapidated houses 2 miles ahead that can barely serve as a resting place. I have explored the surrounding areas but haven't noticed anyone moving. Okay. Upon hearing this, the tallest among those people looked up and naturally became the mutated Zhu Yujian. If the mutated Zhu Yujian is different from the previous Zhu Yujian. So now Zhu Yujian is vastly different from the previous 2. After several days of rapid marching, I haven't washed or groomed my hair for half a month, and my clothes are nothing but what I wear to keep warm and dirty. Not to mention the current Zhu Yujian's sunken eyes, full of vigilance and indifference in his gaze. With a bearded and disheveled face, he looks like an old bandit king. Wave your hand to let the rider continue to explore the road ahead, then wave your hand to follow up with the others behind you, walking forward in the snow. Every move and gesture was filled with a cold and fierce aura. It can be said that Zhu Yujian is a mountain carving. Of course. This state is cumulative. Indifference is frozen out. Following the rider's guidance, the group quickly found the dilapidated house mentioned by the rider. Everyone sit down and rest. These past few days have been tough for you. Unloading the goods from the livestock has also been tough for them. I really didn't expect to drill into the snow for several days without seeing a large area of land. It's all snow. A pile of strong flames rose, and Zhu Yujian sat down gritting his teeth. Your Majesty, it's like this in Liaodong. It snows for most of the year. A few genie guards, who used to be dressed in fresh clothes and fierce horses, looked like bandits and savages. Now, like Zhu Yujian, they are gathered around the fire to warm up. They were just a few of the many brocade guards waiting in the grottos when Zhu Yujian ran away from Beijing. At that time, when Zhu Yujian passed the imperial edict to Wang Chengyan, he ordered a group of royal guards to escort Wang Chengyan south. Wang Chengyan initially refused, but after Zhu Yujian whispered to him for a moment, he was willing to accept everything. When standing up, he looked as if he was holding his head and chest high, with a heroic demeanor, ready to transform into a fierce man from heaven to save the world. Before leaving, there was a fierce kowtow, exclaiming that he would not disappoint His Majesty's trust. He almost saw blood on his forehead, which made Zhu Yujian very worried that this old man might knock himself silly. The other royal guards have no objections. Protecting Wang Chengyan and heading south is a direct achievement of supporting him. But there are a few who are dumbfounded. I don't know what they were thinking at the time, but they just wanted to follow Zhu Yujian. It's not surprising to have someone like Zhu Yujian. What's strange about Zhu Yujian is that, after discovering that they had boarded a pirate ship, they ran away without any regrets for several days. Your Majesty, after running for so many days, we have already reached the hinterland of the Tartars. If we continue to drill deeper, we will arrive in Korea. Speaking, the face of the genie guard couldn't conceal fatigue. Although I didn't have the intention to run away with a bucket, I had to run recklessly and hide from time to time, and the environment became increasingly bad as I walked. It was true that I had been punished by the boss. At this moment, Zhu Yujian estimated the situation in his heart. It was mid-April. If nothing unexpected happens. At this moment, Wu Sangue was scratching his ears and cheeks in the Gakushan customs, thinking about how to find the best way out for his family and his generals, and also strive for the greatest benefits for himself. Also, because Wu Sangue had more intentions to invest in Jiannu, Jiannu's face was crooked with a smile at this moment, rushing to gather troops and horses to go and pick up the big leak. Why didn't Li Zicheng be mentioned? Because Zhu Yujian hopes that he can have some accidents. Just like Wang Chengyan who went south, he first erected the barely useful Emperor Longwu among the southern Ming emperors to ensure his legitimacy. At the same time, accelerate the speed of pirate deaths in the country. It can also make Nanming appear hopeful at first and stabilize the situation. Starting tomorrow, if you see someone who can speak without speaking, you can only speak the local dialect of Jiannu that I taught you. Remember those few sentences, whether we meet Han Chinese or Jiannu here, we will only speak the local dialect. But starting from tomorrow, we will plunder along the way to replenish military funds. Therefore, when exploring the way, we should pay more attention to the surrounding people, mainly looking for cattle, horses, and livestock. In the future, we need to continue to go deeper and reach the bitter cold area behind Jiannu, Zhu Yujian said, pulling a piece of dry grass from the side and stuffing it into his mouth to chew. Pick a small target and start. Whether you encounter Jiannu or Han people, I won't leave a word or leave a mouth. Obey me. Several genie guards looked solemn and arched their hands together. Zhu Yujian nodded and said, I have already explained the purpose of my trip to you before. Since you have followed me here, I won't say any empty words to motivate you. Now we need to wield our swords, it must be extremely dangerous. Even a slight mistake could lead to the death of guests in a foreign land. The only thing I can guarantee is that your death will be incredibly enjoyable, at a time of raping women, abusing and slaughtering, and charging with pleasure in the construction of the slave city fortress. As he spoke, Zhu Yujian's face lit up with a fierce smile. I used to have enough of being suppressed, but now I can't bear to be suppressed at all. I don't think about anything else, I just want to kill someone. To put it simply, I didn't go to the south to continue being this emperor, but instead plunged into this place for that. What my mother wants to kill the most. It's Jiannu. Upon hearing this, the 6 genie guards couldn't help but tighten their hands as they held the swordsman at their waist. Although I wanted to ask in confusion, what about the aggressive intruder? But Zhu Yujian has already talked about this. The 6 young men in their 20s, the royal guards, naturally had some excitement. Those who can be selected by Wang Chengyan to wait outside Beijing as receptionists are naturally the loyal and patriotic young people of the feudal dynasty in the genie way. At the beginning, they were determined to follow Zhu Yujian, thinking that Zhu Yujian's solitary departure was to accomplish great things. Later, Zhu Yujian stated that he wanted to steal Jiannu's but alone. Although it sounds extremely absurd. But this is also a grand and extremely arrogant event. A few people surged with passion, firmly expressing their ambition to follow Zhu Yujian to the brink of war. The days of arduous trekking have further proved that they are simply models of loyalty in death. At present, several people who have been enduring the wind and snow fatigue finally heard Zhu Yujian say they want to use a knife, which means that the weather in April in northeast China is really cold. Otherwise, under the excitement of the few people, their blood would rush to their heads again, and their intelligence would not know how much more to decline. However, before we start the game, we need to make some changes to our image and give it a new look. A few people looked at each other at the words. Rectification. That's also right. Our current image is indeed not very good, and each one looks like a wild man. Well, Weichen, let's go boil a pot of water now. Upon hearing this, Zhu Yujian grabbed him and said, Stop and stop, what kind of water is boiling? It's just a matter of tying a few braids. If you want to wash it, you won't have that smell anymore. As he spoke, Zhu Yujian twisted his hair in front of him as a demonstration. Look, it's like how I made it up. If you want to wash it, how can we still share the same bad taste as the Jiannu savage? It's just that simple. Have you learned it? Once you've learned it, I'll make it up for you. Once I finish making it up, I'll also make it up for you. Ah, then, that's Weichen. Hurry up. Here and here, mustache. After a moment, the mutated Zhu changed from his disheveled long hair to a slick Viking braid, with even a small braid tied to his beard. Although the composition is a bit rough, I don't know why in the eyes of the royal guards, your majesty's slightly modified appearance is still more like a bandit than his previous unkempt and disheveled appearance. If other people from the Ming dynasty were to watch this, the word barbarian may have been blurted out directly. Don't just look at me, you also make it up. Jiao Buqing, come over here, Buqing, you'll be the next one. Oh, you're still carrying a string of beads. It wasn't left by your parents at home, was it? Then this bead happens to be tied to a whip. In the future, I will find a way to make some moisturizing skincare products turn blood red. If I have something to do, I will apply some on my face. That will be even more exciting. Look at Buqing, he is even more barbarian than a barbarian. End of this chapter. Chapter 4. Proficiency 300. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 4 Proficiency 300 plus, Your Majesty, Pei Wu has raised the banner. With a shout from behind, Zhu Yujian, who was originally buried on his way, suddenly lifted his eyes and looked towards the distant mountain. As expected, there was a rider waving a red flag on the mountaintop. Unload the goods and mount them. Here. Suddenly, the surrounding Jiannu threw their luggage in one place, and the swordsman unsheathed. The three of them quickly followed Zhu Yujian, who had already strode towards the mountain. The remaining two unloaded the goods from their horses and rode on them, drinking and riding their horses closely. After a moment, a few people merged with a horse on the hill. Yucai. Where is the person? Seeing the urgency of Zhu Yujian's inquiry, the cavalry dismounted and pointed directly. Zhu Yujian immediately climbed up the mountain to gaze. Subsequently, a small caravan of horses trekking in the snow caught his eye. Zhu Yujian was overjoyed. What is missing comes what? I want to breastfeed. Mom is here. Rushing from Beijing to here, all thanks to the luxurious running package prepared by Wang for Emperor Chongzhen. Various types of clothing used for camouflage, livestock used for transporting goods, and food items along the way are very complete and in large quantities. I have run this way. The mule and horse have run to death, and they are starting to struggle with food. The remaining 3 horses and 1 donkey suffered a lot. The horse, who was originally a warhorse, has been pulling goods these days and is almost losing heart. From time to time, I stare at the owner who used to take care of it as a mistress with those big eyes, filled with sadness. 15 people, 7 horses, all with their guys, dare to walk slowly on the main road in this weather and place. You should be unlucky. Yucai, give me a bow. Buqing, where is my short spear? There it is. Great, let's wait for them first and be careful. This is our first vote at Jiannu's place. As he spoke, Zhu Yujian glanced at the few stunned youths following him and grinned. There is a fierce Viking bandit leader's demeanor in the smile. 7 on 15, the advantage lies in me. Coincidentally, I can also show you why I dare to come up with such a desperate idea of launching a surprise attack on the rear of Jiannu. After finishing speaking, he waved his hand and asked a few people not to do any unnecessary operations, but to find a suitable ambush position on their own. Zhu Yujian also quickly found a snow-covered mountain stone to conceal himself, with a short spear wrapped around his waist and a bow and arrow tied to the string. His eyes were fixed on the slowly moving caravan. As the caravan approached, Zhu Yujian and a few others would also see their full view. Most of the people in this caravan are dressed in exceptionally thick gray-black cotton clothes, some of which are covered in a rough layer of animal skin, all of which are very bulky. And their thick leather hats on their heads disappointed Zhu Yujian. So he couldn't immediately know if this group had the iconic money rat tail. Taking a light breath, Zhu Yujian's gaze trembled, and the bow in his hand was instantly pulled full. Whoosh! In an instant, there was a faint sound of breaking through the air, and the leader of the horse caravan under the hill tilted his body, then fell to the ground, his body thumping twice. The crowd behind naturally noticed and shouted out, just as they were about to look in the direction of the arrows. Just as he turned his head, a deadly feather arrow headed straight towards one of the people's faces. Alan. Someone in the caravan discovered Zhu Youjian's location and roared as they pointed out the direction for everyone around them. Suddenly, others were somewhat frightened and began tearing at anything that could serve as a cover. At the same time, a few people immediately drew their swords and charged towards the place where Zhu Youjian was located. The group may not be well trained, but they are brave and fearless. But at this moment, the other several royal guards also moved. Boom! A few roars in the snow. A few streams of smoke and dust scattered in the mountains, and 2 more people fell from the cavalry below the hill. After all, they are royal guards, and Wang Qingzhen entrusted them with an important task. The equipment rationing at the time of departure was quite awesome, and there was no such thing as jerry building in Lumi's hands. Although the matchline gun is a worrying sight, it still provides a guaranteed level of lethality against this group of cavalry members who are not heavily armored. And after these few streams of smoke and dust rose, the people in the caravan also began to fight back with bows. Zhu Youjian, the most vicious and largest archer, naturally became their first target for counterattacks. A few arrows flew towards him, causing him to quickly dodge while shouting in Jurchen dialect, which was basically consistent with Manchu, "Rush out. Block them. Don't let them come up." The members of the cavalry below listened clearly and were not surprised by the fact that the ambush was speaking Jurchen language. They only immediately turned their suppressed targets towards the genie guards who fired a shot and then loaded ammunition while observing. And Zhu Youjian is not worried that the royal guards will rush out. After all, they can't understand. As the team roared and chattered below, Zhu Youjian had already identified the people in the team. "It's Jiannu, that's right." So after shouting loudly, Zhu Youjian stood up from behind the rocks and raised his hand. "I have a shiny short spear on hand. Throw the short spear." Jiannu, who was about to rush closer with his head covered, was directly nailed down. Zhu Yu keeps checking his hands. A few short spears around my waist were all thrown out in a moment. Accurate and wonderful. The 7 people who had originally charged up were immediately nailed down the slope to 5 people. There is one left who has been pierced by a short spear in his thigh and is howling in pain, while the other is hiding behind a large stone and dare not show his head again. The archers Jiannu Can fought back a few times, but due to the threat of the royal guard's firearms, it was difficult to aim, so Zhu Youjian remained unscathed. And he dodged behind the stone for a moment, then appeared again holding a black ball the size of a melon in his hand. Then he carefully lit the fire and accurately threw the black ball into the center of the horse team in a standard shot put position. It would be of great use if Zhu Youjian could abandon the goods that had to be carried by the warhorses for marching speed. Later, Zhu Youjian ignored the rules he had set before and shouted loudly, "Watch it. You guys look at the horses. I look at the people. No one is allowed to leave. When the firearm rings." This group of Jiannu had already lost their fighting spirit, and before verbal communication, they often argued about how to break out of the encirclement. Bang! And when a thunderbolt exploded in the center of the caravan. So the only thing they could think of was running away. Unfortunately, Zhu Youjian's bow and arrow were incredibly precise. When the last of them was shot down by Zhu Youjian directly from the pack horse that had not been running for long, the nearby royal guards who were preparing to pursue couldn't help but raise their trembling hands and clap their palms fiercely. Point the body a little bit, put a knife on the neck, and then gather all the horses that are still alive and not injured. Oh, by the way, let's take a look at the goods first. This is the first order from the old men. In fact, there is no need for Zhu Youjian to say that when the Jiannu of the cavalry had a tendency to flee, the royal guards had already lost their guns and rushed out of the hiding place with their swords and bows. Along the way, he repaired his sword and also shot 2 arrows to try his luck, then stopped the scattered pack horses. After scrutinizing 15 people, they had already begun to concentrate the spoils of war. During the reign of Chongzhen, although the Jiannu Wei did not have the same authority as before and did not use torture to extract confessions much, they were still quite professional in terms of plundering and profiteering, as well as killing and silencing people. Your Majesty, I have a brief look and it seems that they are all made of leather. Jiaobuqing, who had previously been described by Zhu Yujian as the most barbarian, approached with his Lu Mi gun in his arms, his face flushed with blood but unable to conceal his excitement. What's wrong with this? Is it hurt? No, just now there was an old man named Jiannu with blood spurting from his neck, which burned my face. End of this chapter. Chapter 5. Wild Man Jurchen. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 5 Wild Man Jurchen. As Jiaobuqing said, the 7 horses in this caravan transport goods, of which 5 are all carrying various types of leather. There are those that have been nitrate, some with some minced meat, and some that have been cut into mold shapes. No need to look too much, it's all raw materials used to make leather armor. And there are still 2 horses left, carrying the daily necessities of the 15 members of this caravan, mostly dry biscuits and meat, as well as a few tents. Your Majesty, there are only 3 horses that can be used by the snatched pack horses, but there is still one that is only slightly injured and can barely be ridden. I estimate that it may take a few days to recuperate with some medicine. That's useful. We really need big livestock now. Also, hurry up and pile these corpses together. Our guys will all be evenly distributed on the horses' backs, and then carry a little bit of this tanned leather. It's a pity to burn it all. Speaking, Zhu Yujian grabbed the braids on the heads of these Jiannu and piled up the bodies one by one. I used to think these braids were very easy to pick up, but now I've really gotten started and found them to be like this. But the tail of this money rat is still a bit thin and easy to break, come on. Stack those raw skins on these corpses. Add some firewood and light them up. Your Majesty, as soon as this skin burns up, it may cause trouble for Jiannu. So hurry up. If it burns, let's run away quickly. And even if Jiannu is attracted at this time, there won't be much. Nowadays, the mutated fierce man Zhu Yujian naturally does not speak recklessly. At this moment, Jiannu's army was rushing towards the mountain customs in a hurry. According to the historical records of the southern Qing Dynasty, the Qing army deployed around 80,000 troops in this battle of Shengjing. What does 80,000 troops mean for the Qing army? When Emperor Shizu Zhang entered the capital, his army was only 100,000. With a force of 100,000, he would serve the world of 15 provinces. How could human power be strong? This is what Yongjing said. Assuming that these 100,000 soldiers refer to 100,000 elite 8 banners, with an additional 100,000 soldiers or reserves added as the basic force of the Qing dynasty at this time. That Dorgan also took almost half of the Qing soldiers, and they must be elite soldiers, to gamble and compete with Das Hun for national luck. A secure emptiness in the rear of the territory. At least in the pursuit of bandits like Zhu Yujian, the intensity will inevitably decrease significantly. Quickly, a thick yellow smoke surged in the wilderness, soaring into the sky. Who chopped the pine branches? The firewood needs to be dried. The skin was supposed to burn and smoke. If this thing was covered, the smoke wouldn't just fly up into the sky. Alright, just start the fire and it's done. Get on your horse and leave quickly. Try to find a decent place to stay before it gets dark. Under the urging of thick smoke and Zhu Yujian, everyone immediately rode the still somewhat frightened pack horse, and Wu Yangyang plunged into the wilderness. This drill. It's just 3 whole days. Due to the previous incident, the group received some supplies and added a few pack horses. Zhu Yujian and his companions also moved faster. During these 3 days, The purpose of the team's movement has completely changed from the previous covert marching to the extensive search for looting targets. Although it is a pack horse, each person on one horse also has an additional donkey, greatly increasing the search range of the team. And everyone worked hard to search. It also made mutated Zhu Yujian realize the fundamental difference between the Liaodong region at this time and the later Liaodong region. In words, the population of Liaodong is just a line of words. Truly stepping into it, Zhu Yujian realized how lucky it was for them to encounter a horse caravan in the wilderness 3 days ago. There's no one in this place. It's been 3 days. From the beginning, Zhu Yujian had better find a farm to rescue useful Han slaves, and then teach them how to support the Han family. Oh no, it's better to help Daming. It would be good if it could eventually evolve into visible signs of human activity. That's it. They didn't find any reliable signs along the way. It's getting more desolate as we head north. A few more days of walking, there are almost more tigers seen from afar than the people we meet. Your Majesty, lunch is ready. Preserved meat. Are we only left with snatched preserved meat? I won't eat it. Also, I didn't mention it before, but you can switch to a different knife next time to cut the preserved meat. Your knife was used to repair the blood clot before, but it was still dried with snow. There is still blood clot in the blood tank. Do you think I don't know? Zhu Yujian waved his hand and politely declined the meticulously sliced cured meat of the Jiannu. He asked a Jiannu who had just returned to the camp, "Have you noticed anything about Sanchue? Where is Shengjing? He hasn't come back yet." Wei Qin did not find anyone. As for Qing Kuo, he had seen him from afar when Wei Qin returned, so he was probably coming back soon. Okay, let's go eat something. Zijia personally cut the cured meat, with exquisite craftsmanship. Each slice is as thin as cicada wings, and it's incredibly delicious. In no time, Genie Wei Qing Kuo returned, waving a small red flag. I saw someone. What kind of person is it? Zhu Yujian immediately approached to inquire. Yes. Some people. Not just some people. There's also a fight. Running in a hurry, Qing Kuo was a bit wheezing from the horse's jolt, but there was no need to say more. Just pointing in one direction, Zhu Yujian had already pulled a horse and flipped it over. Although his physique is somewhat unsuitable for horseback riding, at least the horse has started to run. Several other genie guards quickly pulled out their muskets from their cloth bags upon seeing this, and other equipment was also brought along to keep up. In no time, Qing Kuo bumped to the front of the team again, pointing out the way for everyone. When they arrived at the place, a few people looked from a distance and it was indeed as he said. The fight was lively. Or rather, unilateral hunting is very lively. Nearly 100 people scattered around in the wilderness, dodging and fleeing everywhere. It seemed like they had just been driven out of the woods, and each one was very embarrassed. And around 20 riders were wandering and chasing around these 100 people, slowly forcing them to form a group, but they were also a bit embarrassed due to a shortage of manpower. However, these 20 riders, with their butcher knives in their hands, occasionally cut down those who attempted to escape, and were forced by arrows. After a lot of effort, the 100 or so women and children among them had to squeeze together, and no one dared to escape. Even if they resist, it is difficult for cavalry like throwing spears and hunting bows to hit the cavalry hanging far from their warhorses. Subsequently, these cavalry soldiers occasionally threw lassos into the crowd, then pulled out individuals to tow behind the horses. When the drags stopped struggling, they stopped and tied them together. But upon seeing it, Zhu Yujian and others knew that this group of cavalry was not of the same type as the previous cavalry. The previous group of people had relatively complete weapons, but this group of cavalry had armor plates on their bodies. Although only 2 of them were wearing gray and tattered cotton armor coats, it also proved that this group of people were serious soldiers who built slaves. Now this group of Jiannu cavalry is grabbing people with enthusiasm, and they don't stop their lassos in their hands. Those who were originally planning to escape, there were also a few cavalry soldiers outside who were watching closely. Let the hundreds of people struggling in the flat wilderness with only one pair of legs feel extremely desperate. And Zhu Yujian waved his hand, his face somewhat excited. He understands this situation so well. Isn't Jianzhou Jurchen causing trouble for the wild Jurchen? The three major parts of Jurchen in the Ming Dynasty. Jianzhou Jurchen, Haishi Jurchen, Wild Jurchen. It is said that there are three major tribes, but in fact, regardless of which dynasty's heavenly kingdom, many nomadic, fishing and hunting tribes and races in Liaodong region are roughly classified by region. Just say it's a Jurchen and it's over. In fact, many of these tribes distributed in the Liaodong region are unaware that they have been Jurchen. But don't say it. In the past, everyone had their own tribe, including the Ula tribe, Yeha tribe, Orokan tribe, Xibe tribe, and so on. They had different traditional tribal cultures, and when compared to outsiders, it was not only incompatible but also full of barriers. But when the concept of Jurchen is introduced, now everyone is of the Jurchen ethnic group. The external battle suddenly turned into an internal battle. In this way, it also facilitated the population plundering and integration of other Jurchen tribes by the Jurchen tribes in Jianzhou, which were dependent on the rise of the Ming dynasty. Afterwards, Huang Taiji changed the Jurchen to Manchu and used the 8 banners as a point. The Jurchen barbarian tribe warriors who were knocked unconscious and captured from other tribes suddenly became the lord of the Manchu Zhenghuang banner. Others will kowtow and shout for your auspiciousness when they see you. Isn't this more exciting than living in the savage tribe before? Of course. The premise is that you must be a man, able to fight, and able to live. After all, most of the captured wild Jurchen tribe warriors have become glorious armored individuals who dedicate themselves to the shining light of the Qing Dynasty. End of this chapter. Chapter 6. He caused a lot of trouble. Thank you. What about us? You are listening at novelfull.audio. The source has no content or has errors. Do you know Daming in Chapter 7? You are listening at novelfull.audio. Do you know Daming in Chapter 7? Bang! Soon, there was a thunderous bang from the clear sky in the wilderness. A Jiannu cavalry ignited a small bottle of gunpowder and hastily threw it into the midst of the tribe. The newly emerged fighting courage of the tribal people also dissipated in this roar and firelight. Old, weak, women, and children are all running for their lives. But unfortunately, those brave tribal warriors knew that this was the best time to fight for their lives. When the Jiannu cavalry were in chaos, they had a chance to catch up. The explosion only made them shiver for an instant, then ignored the pain on their bodies and began charging and chasing. Fortunately, the killings by Zhu Yujian and others have not stopped. Several Jiannu realized that their arrows were not accurate when the Jiannu cavalry was active, so they changed their strategy and drew their swords to chase after the Jiannu cavalry who wanted to distance themselves from the wild Jurchen tribe soldiers, with the goal of driving out blockades. Block their route, harass and procrastinate, and then let the strongest Jurchen tribe warriors rush closer, using their rudimentary iron spears, knives, and even throwing stones to drop their horses. As a result, the number of Jiannu cavalry on horseback became fewer and fewer, and the terrifying effects they threw outweighed the lethal gunpowder bottles, greatly reducing their deterrent power. Soon, the horse of the last Jiannu cavalry was impaled by the tribal warrior's spear and overturned on the back leg. The Jiannu broke free from the reins and ran a few steps in a row, only to be pierced by Zhu Yujian's arrow in his neck and fell to the ground, clutching his neck and convulsing his life. Later, Zhu Yujian leaned over with his horse and shouted at the tribal warrior who threw out the spear, "Are you the bravest Batulu in your tribe?" The tribal warrior looked up at Zhu Yujian with a faint smile as he gasped for breath and said, "In front of you, you are not considered Batulu. You are the bravest Batulu I have ever seen in my life. Your arrows are so precise that even eagles dare not flap their wings and fly. I guess you are the leader of this tribe. What is your name? Guichi, the powerful Batulu, I think you are the most suitable to become the leader of our tribe. Guichi is a middle-aged man with dark skin and traces of wind and snow erosion on his face. In previous battles, he led the way and achieved the greatest results among the tribe's warriors. Catch up and use a spear to nail down a Jiannu cavalry, nail down one horse, and even nail down one Jiannu warhorse. But at this moment, he is clumsily flattering. Because Zhu Yujian is really too strong. Riding on the back of a warhorse is like a fierce tiger or a blind bear clinging to the horse's back. No matter how big a person is, they are almost as big as a horse. But that poor warhorse has suffered. What's even more outrageous is his bow and arrow. In the battle just now, Guichi saw 8 Jiannu cavalry soldiers shot down by him. In the true sense, arrows never fail to shoot. And Zhu Yujian was very satisfied with his attitude. Very upscale. But on the surface, Zhu Yujian still shook his head and said calmly, I don't need a tribe, brother. I'm different from Batulu, who guards his own people. What I want to lead is an army. It's not a hunting team, it's not a plundering team, it's an army that only needs thousands of Baturis, no women, no children, no elderly people. Army. Upon hearing this, Guichi's face changed. Listening to this, isn't this the same path as the people from Jianzhou outside? This is to kill all the old, young, women, and children in the tribe, and then force the warriors in the tribe to join them. Fortunately, Zhu Yujian's subsequent words dispelled his idea. A long time ago, those people from Jianzhou outside the forest found my tribe, killed all the women, children, and elders in my tribe, kidnapped all my brothers, and only I managed to escape. Afterwards, I followed my brothers who were kidnapped, followed the people of Jianzhou, and stepped into their land. I watched as they treated my brothers as slaves and turned them into their warriors. Upon hearing this, Guichi and the gradually gathering tribe couldn't help but raise their ears. Isn't what Zhu Yujian is talking about the experiences of many tribes in these old forests? Too many. In these decades, there have been too many tribes, big and small, that they have known, and in the blink of an eye, news of being plundered by the people of Jianzhou has spread. Looking over, there were all the miserable corpses of the elderly and those children who were not as tall as horses. In recent years, it has been even more terrifying. Before, women and half-boys were just abducted. Nowadays, those people from Jianzhou only need warriors, and adult males from their tribes. As for the others, some will be thrown into the wilderness waiting to die, while others will be killed directly. Looking for it, we can only find corpses scattered all over the mountains and fields. So, Zhu Yujian's account of his own experiences touched their hearts. I saw on the land of the people of Jianzhou how they trampled on us, and also saw the world outside the old forest. More importantly, I saw and learned everything they knew. I also had ways to fight against the people of Jianzhou. So I came back. For those who cannot return. What method? Even after defeating the people of Jianzhou, in Guichi's eyes, the people of Jianzhou are still exceptionally terrifying and powerful, so even if he asks questions, he is extremely lacking in confidence. But Zhu Yujian seemed to appreciate his question and patted him on the shoulder, saying, "It's the army. My brother. The army. The people of Jianzhou are stronger than us, wealthier than us. It's because they have an army. Or rather, their entire tribe is an army. If we also have an army. So not only can we protect our people and land. You can also go to the land of Jianzhou people. Plunder their wealth. Their weapons. The cotton clothes and armor they are wearing. Even this." Speaking, Zhu Yujian flipped over and dismounted, pulling out a small pottery bottle from the bag of a Jiannu cavalry horse. Upon seeing this small pottery vase, the tribe members were immediately in an uproar, and the timid ones had already run out for more than 10 steps. Even Guichi leaned back a little. It can be seen that gunpowder left a very deep impression on them. This, gunpowder. Zhu Yujian spoke up, saying that the two characters, gunpowder, are in Chinese with correct pronunciation. And Gu Yiqi instinctively repeated, while also asking, fire, gunpowder. This is the language of the Chinese people, my brother. It's the language of the Ming Dynasty. Do you know the Ming Dynasty? Gu Yiqi was taken aback, he really knew. The elders in the tribe have talked to the shamans. It's about why the people of Jianzhou are called Jianzhou people. Many years ago, before the huge tribes of Yehe, Hada, Ula, and Huifa were annexed by the people of Jianzhou, and before the people of Jianzhou were called Jianzhou people. It was the Ming tribe of the Han people, and as soon as they appeared, the people of Jianzhou quickly surrendered and dared not resist. Then the Han people named their land Jianzhou. Since then, they have gradually been referred to as Jianzhou people by other tribes. Besides that, Gu Yiqi's thought directly opened the box of memories. Surprisingly, I remember when I was a child, the tribe seemed to have paid tribute to this great Ming. On second thought, it seems like we have all paid tribute to Daming together. Just like surrendering to the legendary Khan and sending soldiers to join the Khan's army. Many tribes in the Old Forest seem to have also surrendered and paid tribute to the Ming dynasty. Daming also gave a lot of gifts in return. Some small things that have been passed down to the present day are still in good condition in the tribe. It seems like a tribute from the past. When I heard from my elders that the people of Jianzhou were still subject to the Ming dynasty, their tribe could trade on the land of Jianzhou people and exchange for various commodities from the Ming dynasty. End of this chapter. Chapter 8. The Jianzhou robbery case, during team formation. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 8. The Jianzhou robbery case, during team formation. Thinking about it, Gu Yiqi couldn't help but have some longing and resentment towards the Daming mentioned by Zhu Yujian. Since the Daming tribe was so powerful that they had already surrendered to the people of Jianzhou decades ago, why didn't the Daming protect many wild Jurchen tribes who also surrendered to the Daming, allowing the people of Jianzhou to ravage the land of the wild Jurchen? But these emotions were quickly dragged onto gunpowder by Zhu Yujian. When a clump of inferior gunpowder placed on the ground was ignited by Zhu Yu's inspection sickle, sparks and smoke bloomed. All the members of the tribe were attracted. The flickering flames didn't scare them. And Gu Yiqi sniffed, confirming that what he smelled was the smell of lightning thrown by the people of Jianzhou. Picking up the burnt residue of gunpowder with his fingers, he asked Zhu Yujian again, gunpowder. The pronunciation is a bit awkward, but it's not called gunpowder correctly. Zhu Yujian nodded and poured out the remaining gunpowder from the small pottery bottle. This kind of thing, whether it's gunpowder or large firecrackers, is somewhat elevated. In the future, if firecrackers have the same amount of medicine as this thing, they must have a killing range of at least 1 or 2 meters after explosion, and the shattered pieces can give nearby people a bloody wound without any problem. When this thing explodes, it makes a loud noise, and the shattered pieces hit a person, causing a skin injury. And Gu Yiqi was extremely regretful. They have not failed to resist. But the Jurchen tribe of the wild people lived far apart, and the people of Jianzhou were unable to defend themselves. Their weapons were much better than those of the Jurchen tribe of the wild people, and there was gunpowder, a means they could not understand at all. Now that the gunpowder has been finally seized, Zhu Yujian has caused trouble at will. This is a deity, a treasure bestowed upon the Han people by the spirit of nature. After the people of Jianzhou surrendered to the Han people shared this treasure with them. However, after the people of Jianzhou obtained the treasure, they betrayed the Ming people and used the gunpowder bestowed upon them by the Ming people to attack us and plunder our tribe. Take a look, my brothers. Gunpowder is not as complex as you imagine. The treasures bestowed upon mortals by gods are just fine. No matter who it is, as long as it is human, only with flames can it drive this treasure. Speaking, Zhu Yujian handed over the fire sickle in his hand. After hesitating for a moment, Guichi took the fire sickle and, under the instigation of Zhu Youjian's gaze, ignited the small pile of gunpowder. In an instant, the flames splattered and crackled. The spark hit Guichi, but he had no intention of evading. The eyes were filled with the flames that exploded from the one's own hand. Being mesmerized by the sight, Zhu Youjian didn't even notice sparks crashing onto his body when he slapped him on the shoulder. Take a good look, study hard, and learn how to use gunpowder. This is the first step for us to seek revenge against the people of Jianzhou. My brother, you must protect your own people, so I will not force you to join my army. But you must learn to use gunpowder. You can also take these weapons of the Jianzhou people to protect your tribe, but I will keep the armor and warhorses. They belong to the Baturis who will follow me in the future. Next, I will travel through the entire old forest, searching for all the tribes, looking for the Baturis and warriors who are willing to resist the bandits of Jianzhou with me, and searching for those who are willing to follow me to plunder the land of the people of Jianzhou. Those who seek revenge against them. Just as he finished speaking, the tribe that had just been ravaged by Jiannu had already roared with anger. I'll follow you. I want to kill 10 people from Jianzhou to avenge my grandmother. Even Guichi gritted his teeth secretly. As the leader of a tribe, although the tribe is small. But he, as the tribal leader and the first warrior of the tribe, Batulu, was heartbroken by Jiannu's gunpowder explosion in the forest, and was even ridden and dog-walked by a group of people across from him, watching their people being ravaged but powerless. He's also shameful. Zhu Youjian's words naturally opened up his mind. If each tribe in the old forest sends a few warriors to follow under this Wuerte, riding horses and focusing on blocking the plundering team of the Jianzhou people. Even if we cannot confront each other head-on, as long as we patrol and guard outside the old forest, when the people of Jianzhou come to plunder, the tribe can advance to the depths of the old forest and avoid a disaster. As for going back to plunder, Guichi was both tempted and fearful about this. How little does their tribe do in the key robbery job? I haven't done it in years. On the other hand, Zhu Youjian had already begun to welcome the new members of the team with a smile. With warriors like you, we can definitely plunder countless wealth from the land of the people of Jianzhou. Food. And women. Look at those dead Jianzhou people. Come on. The iron armor on this Jianzhou person's body belongs to you. Take your bow and arrow. They are just riding horses and wearing armor with better weapons. Actually, they are just a group of cowards who dare not confront us warriors head-on. Now you're also wearing such armor and holding good weapons. How could a person from Jianzhou be your opponent? Do you know, brothers? Now the Han people are also starting to suppress the Jianzhou people who are no longer subservient. Has the army of Jianzhou people not appeared in the old forest in recent years? Are all the people from Jianzhou coming from small groups? It's because they're busy fighting against the Han people. As he spoke, he had already called on the 2 or 3 tribal soldiers, but after speaking, Zhu Youjian had already surrounded the tribal soldiers by the horse. At the same time, these tribal warriors also vomited a circle of questions. There aren't many remaining armor, who can get it? I don't want iron armor. I want a pair of boots from the people of Jianzhou. Do you still have weapons? When are we going to rob? Are the Han people attacking the people of Jianzhou? Will the Han people help us? Faced with these questions, Zhu Youjian also smiled and bowed from his horse to answer one by one, with a friendly expression on his face, treating them as his own brothers and treating them like a family. And the several genie guards beside him also followed Zhu Youjian's previous orders, unable to understand but still remained silent. Just staring at the tribe soldiers approaching Zhu Youjian, with a long sword ready to be unsheathed at any time. You just killed a person from Jianzhou with your own hands, and you can have an iron armor. Boots and weapons. Of course. There's also robbery. When I gather a whole 100 warriors, we'll go rob on the land of the people of Jianzhou. I have seen Han people on the land of Jianzhou people, and they still remember us tribes in the old forest. As long as we find the leader of Daming, Daming will definitely help us fight against the Jianzhou people. Just for a while. 9 tribal warriors participated in the looting of Jiannu cavalry equipment. Both Zhu Yujian and Gu Yiqi knew that these tribal warriors who participated in the spoils were even considered to have joined Zhu Yujian's command. Gu Yiqi did not stop either. As mentioned before. He also felt a bit tempted. If it weren't for the fact that the tribe couldn't be separated, and now Zhu Yujian has only about 10 new tribe warriors under his command, he would really want to try to snatch the people of Jianzhou. The departure of 9 tribe soldiers from the tribe at once also made him somewhat unhappy. Isn't it even more difficult for the tribe that suffered losses under the attack of the Jianzhou people after you left? But at this moment, Zhu Yujian flipped over and dismounted and leaned over. Don't worry, my brother. I have all planned and I guarantee that these warriors won't leave for too long. The old forest is big, and there are many ambitious and carefree warriors like them. I believe I can quickly gather 100 warriors. At most for a month, you can watch these warriors return with their loot, if you find one warrior missing. I will compensate you with a warhorse. How about it? What? End of this chapter. Chapter 9. The Black Flag and the Green Hat Prince. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 9. The Black Flag and the Green Hat Prince, but they joined your army. Zhu Yujian, however, pointed to Gu Yiqi's followers with great concern. Unless I am truly carefree, without even an acquaintance, a tent, or any livestock to take care of, it is only appropriate to stay behind me. Otherwise, the tribe will be deserted, and how can the warriors leave them alone to enjoy themselves on the land of the people of Jianzhou? You're not a heartless person, you must be coming back. Take care of the women and dolls in the tribe, so that the warriors have the strength and the mind to carry out the next robbery. Gu Yiqi's eyes lit up as he spoke, and the tribal warriors nodded repeatedly, their faces beaming with joy. I was a bit nervous about joining Zhu Yujian's team before. After all, this can be considered abandoning the tribe. But now Zhu Yujian said so. Isn't that like going out hunting? I went out for a while and only returned after a few months, which is about 10 more days than usual hunting. So for a moment, several tribal warriors eagerly joined in. Even Gu Yiqi himself was restless. In the blink of an eye, counting the previous 9, Zhu Yujian surprisingly only accepted 10 people, and didn't ask for the rest. On the contrary, he leaned over to Gu Yiqi and said, "No way, we need to leave some people in the tribe. Although I really want the warriors in the tribe to follow me to the land of the people of Jianzhou to make money, I need to let more other tribes in the old forest know how weak the people of Jianzhou are. The warriors in our tribe can take turns, and next time another group of people can follow me to rob. My goal this time is a bit small, so only 100 warriors are needed. Next time, I will inquire more about the wealthiest places in Jianzhou and bring along 500 people. 1,000 warriors. Not only to rob, but also to rescue those brothers and sisters who were taken away by Jianzhou people. Gu Yiqi, do you have any familiar or well-connected tribes? You can inform them, and I will definitely reserve a few positions for their tribe's warriors to rob the people of Jianzhou together. How are you doing? The plan to recruit wild Jurchen tribe warriors was very successful. The soldiers of the Gyiki tribe, under the guidance of Zhu Yujian, were very enthusiastic about going out of the old forest to rob the people of Jianzhou. Especially when 10 wild Jurchen warriors mounted 10 uninjured Jiannu cavalry horses and followed Zhu Yujian, paving the way for the Gu Yiqi tribe. The entire tribe's communication was filled with a desire for war horses and weapons, as well as the thick warm clothing of the Jiannu cavalry, and the future robbery of the Jianzhou people. Even the sadness of death and injury among the same clan has been diluted a lot. Even as a result, the factor of revenge was added, and the discussion about robbing the people of Jianzhou became even more intense. That's right. For the wild Jurchen tribe. The people of Jianzhou are really scary. Very powerful. This resulted in them not having any clear intentions like Zhu Yujian to concentrate the forces of the wild Jurchen tribes to resist or even counter-kill before. But once you have it. And just now, with the help of Zhu Yujian, they won a big victory over the people of Jianzhou. These fishing and hunting tribe warriors, who were already fighting against nature and beasts in the wild forests, naturally had a vivid mind. Riding a horse from Jianzhou. Holding the weapons of the people of Jianzhou. Wearing armor peeled off from the dead people of Jianzhou. Their last trace of fear towards the people of Jianzhou disappeared. Guichi, the tribal leader, initially thought that his tribe had become a recruitment point. But now think about it. My tribe used to be a shareholder. So the project of robbing the people of Jianzhou, which was initiated by Wu Ert, Zhu Yujian, had to go back to the tribe and sit down to understand and discuss. In no time. Under the guidance of Gu Yiqi and others, Zhu Yujian and his team arrived at a small mountain valley located between the wild forests. There are large sheds in the valley, the ground is messy, and there are many corpses. This is Gu Yiqi's tribe. My daughter. A woman who had been begging for gods before let out a mournful cry and ran towards the body of a little girl in the tribe, causing other members to feel sad. At this moment, the leader Gu Yiqi's face turned pale with iron. With such a tragic situation, it was his dereliction of duty as the leader and also the fault of the people of Jianzhou. I clenched my fist and finally grabbed Zhu Yujian's reins with resentment, saying, the next time I rob a person from Jianzhou, I must go. Zhu Yujian patted his chest and comforted him, sure. You settle down the tribe first. Batulu, like you should go kill those damn Jianzhou people. In the future. You will always have your place in my plundering team. Come on. Take this. Speaking, he threw a bronze brand to Guichi. Do you believe me, my brother? Guichi took the sign and looked up at Zhu Yujian, who was 2 heads taller than him, nodding. Zhu Yujian saved his tribe, and the description of the future in his mouth sounds quite convincing. He can't pick out any faults. Upon seeing the situation, Zhu dismounted from his horse and hugged him with a big laugh. This is the waist badge of the people of Jianzhou, and now it is your waist badge, my brother. I have used a small knife to engrave your name in Chinese characters on the badge. From today on, you will be an official flag bearer under our old Linzi Zhenghe banner. At the same time, it is also the Niu Luozhen of the Guichi tribe. Responsible for the household registration, farmland, military registration, and litigation of the Guichi tribe. And they also have the right to plunder the people of Jianzhou. Your subordinates will participate in our first plunder. And as long as you hold this waist token for a day, I am the Black Flag. Black Flag Wuerte will use his life to protect your tribe. Leolinzi Zengaiki will be your eternal home. This waist token will bring you endless wealth and glory. Leolinzi Zengaiki will rise from today. You and your subordinates, the Baturis, will command even greater power like the Mongols in the past. A large tribe with tens of thousands of people. Be that face. Taiji. Prince. Speaking, Zhu Yujian squeezed his eyes. When the time comes, I will leave you with the throne of the green-hated prince, who has inherited the legitimate black flag and is no longer in power, good brother. After these words, Guichi listened in a mist. But at least I understood the general meaning of Zhu Yujian from inside. Originally, the team in front of Wuerte was called Old Linzi Zengaiki, and he was nicknamed Black Flag Wuerte. Now 10 people from their tribe are following him to rob, so Black Flag Wuerte has issued a certificate, probably to be used for sharing the spoils in the future. At the same time, with this brand, Black Flag Wuerte will also protect his tribe. And Black Flag Wuerte also promised to make his tribe stronger and bigger. He will also be appointed as a nobleman like the legendary Mongols. Grand Noble. On the side, Zhu Yujian watched as Guichi clenched the bronze plaque tighter and tighter, with a more sincere smile on his face. End of this chapter. Chapter 10. Wang Team Squad in Prison. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 10. Wang Team Squad in Prison. Zhu Yujian's first recruitment plan went smoothly. It's a bit too smooth. Perhaps during World War I with the Jiannu cavalry, his powerful personal strength was exceptionally reliable for the tribal warriors who highly valued personal strength. So although Zhu Yujian firmly stated that he only recruited 10 people from the Guichi tribe, the remaining young tribe soldiers continued to try to infiltrate Zhu Yujian's queue. In the end, he could only unite with Guichi, who was also eager to move under his verbal temptation, to say that this time he would recruit 3 more people and make up for it. In this way, half of the young soldiers of the Guichi tribe were taken away by Zhu Yujian. His team has also grown to 20 people. And the vast majority are cavalry. The speed of marching is guaranteed. So under the guidance of the soldiers from the Guichi tribe, the group spent only a day and a half along the river near the tribe to find another wild Jurchen tribe. Different from Guichi, who was just hit by a disaster. This tribe can only be seen from a distance and surprisingly exudes a sense of prosperity and prosperity. Shacks and tents stand tall, and there is a circle of wooden stakes surrounding the tribe. There is also a place for people to stand and shoot on top. The smoke from the cooking in the tribe is faint, and many people are swimming in it. There are also a few rough flat boats casting nets in the nearby river. If you look more carefully, you can still see the hunters in the tribe peeling the skin of their prey on the edge of the tribe. The peeled leather is pulled apart and fixed on a wooden frame to dry for a period of time. When the leather is stretched out without shrinking, it is taken off and waiting for tanning. And when a hunter praised his good craftsmanship and put down the perfect roe deer skin in front of him, he finally discovered an unwelcome guest in the distance of the tribe. Zhu Yujian and others watched as he fell down and quickly stood up, shouting and running into the tribe. Suddenly, the tribe became chaotic, and the small boats on the river were desperately sliding towards the shore. In no time, a large group of men gathered together and closed the gate of the tribal wall, then stood on the wall. But Zhu Yujian smiled helplessly at the tribal soldiers on the side. This is treating us like people from Jianzhou. After speaking, he instructed the royal guards beside him, don't take any action later. They won't harm me. A few royal guards didn't say much and responded with an arched hand. Your Majesty can speak Chinese, but he previously said that they cannot speak Chinese and can only speak Jianzhou dialect and tribal dialect. A few people also noticed that in the future, the team that Zhu Yujian will lead will mostly be the surrendered Jianzhou wilderness Jurchen. As the royal guards, it is extremely necessary to learn a new language in order to better assist Zhu Yujian in commanding these subordinates. But Zhu Yujian spoke Chinese confidently and fearlessly. Why? It's just that these tribal warriors don't understand, and they don't have any aversion or suspicion towards languages they don't understand. After all, he comes from a fishing and hunting tribe, and in Liaodong, there are too many different tribes in the area of Nurgandusi. Language is also diverse. There is no universal one. Even when speaking the same language, various factors combined with time can lead to differences in some vocabulary. For example, the Guichi tribe, a legitimate Jurchen tribe that also has a money mouse tail. Their language has also diverged from the language spoken by the Manchus in the 8 banners of the Qing Dynasty in terms of vocabulary and accent. I'll tell them we're not from Jianzhou. The unrest in the tribe made the tribal soldiers leading the way somewhat anxious. They are here to recruit soldiers to rob. If this is delayed in this tribe for a long time, it will affect the robbery. After speaking, several soldiers galloped over on horseback. Zhu Yujian also followed them. He had no intention of supplementing these tribal warriors with any military knowledge or imposing any prohibitions. After all, once this kind of thing starts, there may not be any results in the short term of March or May, and in the long term, there may be very little effect in 1 or 2 years. To effectively train these savage souls that grow from the forest, snow, and black soil. The only way Zhu Yujian could think of was to unite with the shamans of each tribe in the entire old forest, persuade them to establish a religion together with him, and then train them in the name of religion. But equally, it takes time. But time is tight. With a slight sigh, Zhu Yujian also rode up and followed closely, with several royal guards and other tribal warriors. Although I ventured into this wilderness for a big plan, the feeling of being disconnected from the outside world is not pleasant. Not to mention outside of Liaolinzi, outside of Nurgandusi, and outside Liaodong, there is a war closely related to the fate of tens of thousands of people on the entire land of China, as well as the fate of their descendants. Li Zicheng used to be a great Ming. I'm sorry for you. Please be calm and hold on for an extra month. No matter how much harm you have caused during your rebellion, holding on for an extra month will be immeasurable. Hold on for half a year, and I can give you a godly title. Nanjing, Garrison. It has been several days since the thief broke through Chen Bingshan customs, and it was just a few days ago. From my perspective, Wu Sangui, this dog thief, is likely to surrender. A middle-aged man with a beard held a grudge and threw the document on the ground, causing the body of the Jin Wei to tremble as he presented the message. More than half a month ago, Beijing fell and disappeared forever. A few days later, long live, a decree from the emperor, followed the eunuch Bingbai from the imperial household department and several genie guards downstream, landing in the south in a grand manner. Then the Tang king, who had just been released from the prison in Fengyang, the capital of the Ming Dynasty, was appointed to the throne shortly after. As soon as this edict was issued, the restless feudal lords in the southern regions who were restless due to the fall of Beijing were immediately calmed down, and the voices of support in various places disappeared in large numbers. The officials of the Ming Dynasty also seemed to have found their backbone, cheerfully protecting this person when they arrived in Nanjing and ascended the throne, changing his name to Longwu. Take a look. An emperor who has been imprisoned for a lifetime and a half. How good. How suitable to sit in that seat. It's the same thing. Longwu. You, an emperor who has been imprisoned, can take any reign title you want. Wang Qingyan, who brought the edict for a while, was much more pleasing to the eyes of Donglin Xinda among the southern clans. I never thought about it. As soon as this person arrived in Nanjing, every time he issued a political order, his position was firmly established. Reuse every person. In this brand new court, there is an additional hero, loyal and virtuous. The most important thing is to directly appoint Qing Zhilong as the Marquis of Nan'an, give him the surname of Zigua, change his name to Qinggong, and entrust him with important responsibilities. It can be said that there is no problem with unifying internal and external military affairs. This operation almost made Qing Zhilong cry and say that we are now one family, and you need to stand up. But Right Emperor Longwu Zhu Yujian felt a bit frustrated about this. Or to put it another way, I feel a bit dissatisfied. Thinking of the moment when he saw the edict in the prison, Zhu Yujian still felt absurd in his heart. Emperor de Xing Chongzhen. Zhu Yujian left a testament appointing him to succeed to the throne. Are you joking like that? When it comes to Zhu Yujian and Emperor Daxing, there is quite a grudge. At the age of 12, Zhu Yujian and his father were imprisoned together for 16 years, and he was secretly locked up by his own grandfather. It will be calculated in 16 years. The reason for coming out is that my father who was imprisoned together died. Coincidentally, his grandfather also hiccuped in the same year. Suddenly, the court and the public trembled. As soon as Zhu Yujian came out of prison, he succeeded to the throne as the king of Tang and became the winner of his life. But right. Zhu Yujian can be said to be lying on hard work and tasting courage in prison, constantly studying poetry and books. After coming out, he became even more conscious of the vastness of the world, and his ambition was hard to fulfill. Coincidentally, In the 9th year of the Chongzhen reign, the Qing army had already arrived in northern Jili, and the capital was in urgent need. Hot-blooded young Zhu Yujian immediately recruited troops and horses to lead his troops northward to defend the capital. Jumping out of the pigsty set up by the Ming dynasty for the prince. Then, he was impeached by the courtiers, and Chongzhen was also furious. He stripped the king of his title and was sent to the Fengyang prison in the central capital for 7 years. Originally, he went from being a hot-blooded youth in prison to a hot-blooded youth, and this level directly turned him into a hot-blooded middle-aged man. And keep it locked, Beijing is broken. End of this chapter.